Hello everyone, Jerry Tabatt with you. Another edition of our military community on tap here. Lots of things to talk about today. Our topic today is going to be Tyndall, and we're going to talk about the old Tyndall, the new Tyndall, problems associated with it, and what we can look forward to in the future. And I'm really excited to have a guest with me this morning who is Colonel Douglas Kabel, who is the Deputy Commander over at the 325th Fighter Wing. Colonel Kabel, thanks for coming in today. I appreciate it. A lot of things to talk about. We were talking before the show, and I may have to talk them into more than 30 minutes. I don't know, but I always like to start things out. Let's find out a little bit about you so our audience can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. First off, it's really great to be here with you today. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and talk about all the great things going on out at Tyndall Air Force Base in the 325th Fighter Wing. As you said, Colonel Doug Kabel. I've been in the Air Force now 24 years, going on 25. Started out, went to college down in Orlando at the University of Central Florida, and graduated high school just down the road here in Niceville. But joined the Air Force, went to pilot training, was initially an instructor pilot at pilot training as my first assignment. Went on to fly F-15E Strike Eagles. Did a couple of deployments out to Afghanistan and the Middle East during my time then, and then I've been to Korea, a couple of assignments in Texas as an instructor pilot again. I was a squadron commander down in Pensacola, actually, flying T-6s down there and teaching our weapons systems officers. Yeah. And then some staff work up at Langley Air Force Base for Air Combat Command before coming here and taking over as the deputy commander of the 325th Fighter Wing.
You've done all this in 24 years?
Yes, sir. 16 moves.
You've been doing great, and we appreciate your service. Thank you for that. But let's get to talking here now about Tyndall. A lot of us remember back before Hurricane Michael, 2018, Tyndall was just a nice little base, had some activity to it, but it was a nice place to visit. It was a good place to have in our community, but that storm came in and it completely changed not only Tyndall, but it completely changed the community and how we react to it. And what I want to start with, Colonel Kabel, is let's talk about the mission before the hurricane, which is totally different than what we have now. But what was our mission primarily before the hurricane?
Yes, sir. So the mission of Tyndall Air Force Base before the hurricane had been as a training wing. So we have other mission partners on the base that the wing supports, but the primary mission of the 325th Fighter Wing, the installation owner of Tyndall Air Force Base, was an F-22 fighter training unit. So training all of our new F-22 pilots to go and be combat aviators in our Air Force. And that's what Tyndall Air Force Base had done for many years leading up to the hurricane.
And then thank you to Michael. Right. On October 10th, 2018, that changed. And it completely changed the mission. First of all, you didn't have the facilities you needed. And second of all, you had a lot of people displaced. You didn't have any place to keep aircraft. So what's changed now? What's our mission now as we're starting to evolve into this middle of the 2020s here?
Yeah, Jerry, so right after the hurricane, we maintained that F-22 training mission. It just moved down to Eglin Air Force Base down near Fort Walton Beach, right? And we did that there for about a couple of years until just last year that mission transitioned up to Langley Air Force Base, Virginia, and we received our first F-35s as our mission shifts from being that training wing to now being a combat wing, combat generation wing for our Air Force. So our job going forward is going to be to train and ensure the combat readiness of 3 F-35 squadrons at Tyndall Air Force Base. And we'll be deploying those squadrons out to the combatant commands to execute our nation's business.
And not only, of course, is that available for deployment here in the States, you can go worldwide if you have to.
Yes, sir.
Now, F-35s, I was very fortunate to get up close and see one of them, and it's amazing the size of this aircraft and what the capabilities are. You flew F-15s. Tell us a little bit about the difference between flying that F-15, which is old school, to now you have the modern technology of this F-35. What's the big difference here?
So really the difference between what we refer to as fourth generation aircraft, which is the F-15, F-16 and that era, and fifth generation aircraft, F-22s, F-35s, is really most of it is the stealth technology built into the airframe itself to reduce the radar signature, but a lot of it is actually the sensors that are embedded in the aircraft and the way that it operates. And so the difference really between those two and operating them, one is primarily used for weapons employment deployment. The other one has a lot to do with weapons employment, but also as a sensor platform that increases the overall awareness of those fourth generation and other aircraft and Navy assets out there.
Yeah, it's an amazing aircraft. If you look at it, you'd say, I can't do all these things that you're talking about, but it can actually do that. But we have three three F-35 squadrons going to be here. Are they all here now? And why is it so important that we have three? Why can't we just deal with one?
Yes, sir. So first question, no, they're not all here yet. We've stood up the 95th Fighter Squadron, is the first one that stood up, and we currently have 8 aircraft here on our ramp as we build up to that full aircraft squadron, which in the Air Force is going to be 24 aircraft for each squadron. So we just have that one here, and we're building up. We're taking new aircraft deliveries from Lockheed Martin here very soon to continue to fill that out, to build out that first squadron. We're continuing to receive the maintenance and operations personnel to increase the capabilities of that squadron as those aircraft get here. The 3 squadrons was a determination made by the Secretary of the Air Force and the headquarters on the placement and laydown of our force structure, and it just goes in with where we're putting F-35s across the Air Force and across the globe. So that number, the significance of that number is really as part of a force structure management that was not a Tyndall-specific decision.
And it's making a big impact here, and we'll talk about the impact to our community, but these 3 squadrons now, do you have people coming out of school that you train here, or do you have seasoned pilots coming in that are already trained, and bringing them around the world? The training is a lot more difficult than it used to be. So how do you get them trained, and are you at the same time? I know when I was out there at Tyndall, the F-15s and that, we had people from Canada come in and they were learning how to fly them in England. Is that still going to be going on with these F-35s?
So yeah, thanks, Jerry. There's a lot to unpack there with that particular question set. But first off, we are getting a mix of experience in the new both maintenance and operations pilots personnel coming in. A lot of our maintainers are coming from some other platforms that the Air Force is either divesting or they're just shifting manpower around to make sure that we have enough around the Air Force. And so some of our new maintenance technicians are coming in and needing to be trained up on the F-35. I've taxied in with a crew chief. That was his first time ever taxiing in an F-35, but he's got an experienced person next to him helping him to do all that. So they're getting kind of OJT as they're getting here as well. But they've been through the Air Force training program. For the pilots themselves, we have the initial cadre that came here. The first about 6 folks that showed up were all F-35 instructors already, and or very seasoned flight leads in the F-35 that came in with 1 or 2 younger, if you will, inexperienced folks that came in with them to stand up the squadron initially. As we continue forward now, we will have both brand new lieutenants who've just come out of training, as well as some of the more seasoned majors and lieutenant colonels who've been flying the F-35 for a while coming in to fill out the rest of that squadron.
Now, a lot of people, when they think, say, the F-35 fighter planes now, wow, they get the pilots out there, they fly these aircraft, and everything is just fine. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with that, and you're going to have a lot of maintenance people coming in also with that. Where are we going to get them from?
Around the Air Force, and from new accessions as well, right? There's roughly 500 maintainers for the fighters, each of the squadrons coming in. So maintainers and ops personnel, about 500 per squadron. So that's a plus up of about 1,500 personnel over the 3 squadrons as we bring those in. We are bringing in, like I said, from other communities, other airframes coming in to supplement that and learn the F-35 and become F-35 maintainers instead of a maintainer on another aircraft. But also some new accessions as well is where we're getting those folks come. And it's a real balancing act for the Air Force because the maintenance career field isn't overmanned. I'll just put it that way. There are some limitations there, and so there are some challenges that even as we stand up, we aren't. They're not going to fill our roles with people at the expense of another place, right? Because we've got to maintain combat capability across the entire Air Force and not just in one place.
Now, these different people that are going to be coming in, it's going to be a tremendous change. You're going to have a lot of people coming in, not only active duty and their families, but you're also going to be bringing a lot of civilians along with that. So there's several problems in there we want to talk about, or potential problems, but the big thing is now that we get up these F-35 squadrons, all 3 of them coming in, and we get up to full speed and everything, what kind of an economic impact is that actually going to have in our community? Because before, with the old Tyndall, it was a big impact, but now it's like 3 times as big. So let's talk about that economic impact.
Yes, sir, absolutely. As you just described, there are civilians that come in with them, right? So spouses, sometimes teenage children, things like that are going to be able to work in the workforce, earn money, spend money, and all that in the local area, in the local economy, right? In addition to what the military or active duty members bring to the local area as well as the jobs and contracts for the base. So last year, 2022, is just over $4.5 billion of economic impact.
Wow.
From Tyndall Air Force Base to the local community. As I just described, we're going to be increasing our population by about 1,500 folks over that time, which will culminate later this decade. And so you can anticipate right now we have roughly 2,000 to 2,500 people who live and work on Tyndall Air Force Base, not to mention all of the additional folks that are associated with Tyndall, right? And so we plus that up by about another third, and so that's roughly the economic impact that you can see coming into the area.
Not only is that going to be putting a lot of money into the economy here locally, but when all these people come in, sir, it's not so simple as an airman getting a set of orders and going to Tyndall Air Force Base. He's all fine, nothing going on. There's 3 things as an old Air Force guy. When you get an assignment, the first thing you want to know is, where am I going to live? Where are my kids going to go to school? And what kind of child care? So there's 3 specific areas I really want to talk about today. First of all, the housing. Now, you don't have base housing available for these as they're coming in. It's being built, but it takes a while to get all this done, so the load is going out in the community. There is a misconception in this community that when they come in, if there's nothing available on base, they can live off base, but the government pays for it. That's not true. There's only a certain portion that's paid for. So how are we going to deal with this housing problem? Because housing is very expensive here in Bay County.
Yes, sir, you're absolutely right. And it is one of our primary concerns. One of my first events that I went to here at the Bay County Chamber of Commerce coming in as a deputy commander was a planning meeting that they had. They invited us to. And the 3 things that I brought up there was housing, childcare, and schools. We did also talk about hospital services as well, and medical services. And I can talk a little bit about that at the end. But your 3 primary issues there have been issues that we understand and we have been working with Bay County for before I got here, but just continued since then. Couple of specifics. We do have housing on Tyndall Air Force Base, right? As you alluded to, we have just over 300 houses right now on the base for folks, but and we'll get another almost 200. Up to 593, so almost 300 more houses. And most of those houses that are yet to be completed, they're just being renovated. They are not being, they're not completely new rebuilds, right? They're renovating the ones that were damaged from the storm. Once those are done, we'll be able to move folks into them again, and those are for our NCO level folks, right, our non-commissioned officer level, which are going to be our enlisted airmen who are between about 3 years and about 10 years of service. And so they're the ones who actually probably get as far as the amount of money that the government pays for their housing. There's that is based off of rank structure, right? And whether or not you have a family. So those folks are the ones who are probably the most challenged to find affordable housing in the communities based on the amount of money that they get from the government for that housing, right? And so there are a lot of decisions that families have to make about is the spouse going to go to work? What are the kids doing while the spouse is doing that? I've heard anecdotal stories where the spouse could go to work, but the amount of money that the spouse would make at work would just pay for the child care while the spouse was at work. So is that the right decision or not, right? So those are the kind of things that you were just talking about that you make decisions on. So the housing is something that we're working through, and those additional houses should be available in about the next 2 years. So about the time we start adding another squadron, and then beyond that, we should have that additional housing on Tyndall available for those most vulnerable of our population coming in. The rest, though, are going to have to find affordable housing somewhere here in Bay County.
And that's one thing, the affordable housing in Bay County. Now, fortunately, we've got some good people here in Bay County that help people with real estate and things of that nature. Are you, through the the family services and that, are you at the base trying to work with these different real estate companies and everything to explain to them, look, we know this, this, and this, but this is what we've got going? And how's that reaction been with the local realtors?
It's been really great, well received, and yes, our military housing office is the primary link to that, and they work with our local community and the realtors in our local community to not only inspect houses and make sure that they are up to code and things like that before we have military members living in them, but also to ensure that they understand the limitations and constraints of the military personnel coming in, right? As far as the funding goes. So yes, we're consistently doing that at that level. Also, though, at the higher levels, myself, Colonel Watkins, working with our chamber partners down there and the Military Affairs Committee to really make sure that the awareness of that issue and challenge and that problem is made available to the rest of our community, especially those who are responsible for help us solve that together as a team, right? But our teaming with them has been phenomenal.
Yeah, and I'm proud to say I'm a part of the Chamber of the Military Affairs Committee. In fact, that's where we met and everything. But one of the things that some people that I have heard, they take it upon themselves to say, well, maybe I can just come in a couple of days early and I can go rent this house by myself. There's a lot of precautions in there. And do you counsel our people coming in that just because there's a sign on a property that says for lease or for rent, there may be some hidden things in there, so they should be going through a licensed real estate person, actually.
Yes, sir. So when someone is coming into the base, one of their first stops when they get orders to come here, before they're even here, is to contact our military housing office. And our military housing office, like I said, is that liaison to the local community and the housing community, and they should be the ones who provide that communication that you're talking about and that education to our airmen coming in, and also help them to find a place that's that works for that family as well as for the community.
Right. Housing is going to be taken care of. We just have to be patient. But you mentioned briefly schools. It's a big change coming in here, and I talked a couple of weeks ago with Mark McQueen, our superintendent of schools, who understands it. He's an Army general, so he understands it. That a lot of times when these assignments come in, these kids are not coming in at the start of the school year.
Sure.
They're being sent in November, December, January. So how are you working with the school system to make sure that they're getting into the schools they need to get into and to make sure that that transition is smooth so they're not left behind?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And certainly a concern, right, as you've experienced in your military career and as I have experienced with 3 kids in mine. The moving into a community kind of mid-school year is always a challenge when that has to happen. We try to avoid that a lot of times in the military because we know that it's a challenge, but it's not unavoidable at times, right? So we have a school liaison that's also within our wing who works directly with Bay District schools and helps them to understand, number one, the challenges associated with the military children coming in, but also helps to provide communication out to those families that are coming in from Bay County, because sometimes navigating websites and things like that can be confusing. It can be difficult to get somebody on the phone just depending on the time differences where you live and things like that, right? So she is an amazing resource for that particular educational piece. But Bay County and Bay District schools specifically are extremely welcoming to military families, military kids. I mean, you know about the Purple Ribbon program and all the things going on here in Bay County, which is really amazing for our military families and their kids. The school choice program is extremely helpful and useful. I lived on base. My daughter got to choose to go to Bay. She drove herself there. She was a senior.
Oh, wow.
It was nice. But we were coming here and we said, which school has the programs that you want to come to? You're going to be your senior year, right? You get to choose here, which was really amazing and took a lot of those concerns that you were just describing earlier about PCSing in away. So it's been a really great relationship we've had with Bay County. I think we will struggle a little bit with the Tyndall Academy and its capacity issues and challenges, but those are all things that we have very awesome work-throughs and relationships with Bay County to work into.
And it will grow and it will get better. The third thing, and that's one of the things that our Military Affairs Committee, we're really concerned about. In fact, we've worked with some of the state legislatures in that. And that's child care, sir.
Sure.
I mean, sometimes the child care is actually more than what you described about the spouse going to work and getting an income for that. How are we dealing with that? Because there's going to be small children coming in that are going to need that child care if mom goes to work.
They're already here. In fact, we have a huge waiting list for our Child Development Center right now. We are about ready to open our brand new Child Development Center facility that is being built as part of the Tyndall Air Force rebuild, which I know you'll talk about on another episode with someone from our base there that's helping with that. But the new Child Development Center will be able to have 300 children there each day, and right now we think that when that opens, we will basically alleviate our current waiting list and fill it up. But as soon as that happens, the waiting list starts again, right?
You cross your fingers on that one.
And it's going to continue probably, like you say, to increase and have a continual waiting list there. So we understand that's a challenge, and like you said, Bay County is concerned about it because it's not just Tyndall Air Force Base that needs child care, right?
It's the whole county.
The businesses in the county need workers, and those workers need care for their children. So teaming together with them on opportunities for child care in town is definitely on our radar to do. I will say that there are other programs that the Air Force has that can help to take care of the children of Air Force families with a family child care program where a household volunteers to be a child care facility basically, and they have a full rigorous inspection to the standards of the DoD child care system as before they're certified to do that. And then of course the number of children that they can have at their house is based off of the number of providers. But
it will slowly get taken care of, but in the meantime, we need to let people know that if you have any questions about the schools, the child care, the housing, or that, you guys got all the available help. All you got to do is make a call to the base, and you guys can help them. Because let's face it, we don't know that this family coming in. We don't say in the Air Force that okay, I'm going to get 400 new airmen coming in, but with their families, I want to make sure that they don't have any kids below the age of 9.
Right.
It doesn't work that way, so this is an ever-changing situation.
Right, yes sir. The members coming in are the ones that we are focused on getting there because of the skills that they have, whether it's a new maintainer or a new pilot or a new medical provider, right? That's what we're focused on as far as the moving of people around. I will say that there are other programs, the Exceptional Family Member Program, right? So if they have children with special needs or family members with special needs, those are also considerations in the assignment process. But yes, making sure that we do what we can and partner with the community in ways that we are able to ensure that there's child care available for not only our members, right, but their families as well, so that all of the mission of Tyndall Air Force Base can continue, and we can continue to be good partners with our local community.
And that partnership is so good because it works both ways. But one other thing that you mentioned about, and this is kind of important because we do have a large retired population here too, 35,000 people. And that's the medical out at Tyndall Air Force Base. I know when I was stationed at Tyndall, we had a hospital and everything. Now you have the clinic. So you have all of these new people coming in. You've got the retirees. You're looking at overtaxing the medical care, overtaxing the pharmacy care. How are we dealing with this now?
So I'll try to keep it brief, but the overall military medical system has gone through a congressional mandated overhaul to the Defense Health Agency, is now managing our, I'll call it home station medical care, right? So not our deployed locations, but at our home stations like Tyndall Air Force Base. One of the initiatives that Defense Health Agency has been looking at is providing care to the active duty members at the base facility and providing care to the dependents and civilians in the local community using our TRICARE healthcare system, right? The only thing right now that Tyndall Air Force Base, the clinic there, provides to anyone other than active duty at this time is the pharmacy. The pharmacy benefit. So that's the change there. And we actually went to that right after the storm because our facilities got damaged and reduced greatly, and so we went to just active duty only. And based off of the DHA conversion and transition, once we started doing a large mission here again, they kept it that way initially as almost like a pilot program to see how that actually works and if the local community could support the medical. And so far, they're doing a pretty good job of that.
Well, and I've used TRICARE across the local area here and everything, and the doctors here, the clinics here, are very, very helpful in that. and they understand the limitations and everything, and they're not going to say, okay, TRICARE. Well, this should normally cost $184, but we're going to build TRICARE $468.
Right.
They don't do that, and that's what's so good, which leads me into probably the last thing we'll be able to talk about before we run out of time, is the partnership between Tyndall and the local community. You've talked about a lot of different things now that Tyndall needs and the community is helping. But how important is this local community to making Team Tyndall a successful military operation once again?
Jerry, it's absolutely vital, right? There's no way that we at Tyndall Air Force Base and the 325th Fighter Wing can actually provide that unrivaled combat air power for America without the support of our Bay County partners. It's just not possible. We talked about the housing requirements, the school requirements, all those things. I can have someone who is an amazing pilot, an amazing maintainer, a phenomenal intel person, but if their family is suffering, they're not going to be focused on their job, right? And if they're not making the money they need to make, and they're not able to take care of things, they're not able to afford food for their table, right? All those things are going to detract from their ability to do their mission, and to detract from the readiness of our Air Force to deter our adversaries, right? And so that partnership with the community that allows for that peace of mind for our airmen to be able to understand that their families are going to be cared for, their kids are going to good schools, right? The opportunities available for sports and extracurricular activities for their family, and just the area here in general to provide that is truly a requirement for our mission capability.
And that is what's so good about this community, the partnership that we do have. I've been in the area since 1979, and I've seen changes back and forth going on. But one thing I have noticed, that with all of our different government agencies, all of our cities, our local little boroughs and things, they're there. If you have any questions, just go and talk to them. They're more than happy to talk to you, because they understand that. And I always say this, and some people say it's not true, but I always say that if it wasn't for the military influence in Bay County, we'd be in a world of hurt, because a lot of money comes from the military, be it retired, active duty, federal money, or whatever. So that is what's so important about having a team together and working together. We've got about 3 minutes left to go here. Colonel Kabel, what's your final thoughts about all this that we talked about today?
Well, it's been really great being here. I'll try to keep this to our time as well. But I think the key to our success at Tyndall Air Force Base moving forward, as we generate these 3 new squadrons out there, and we actually are starting to build F-35 combat capability for our Air Force, is to maintain and continue working on improving our relationship with the local community, right? And making sure that that the links that we have are solid, whether it's on infrastructure or it's on the other things that we talked about today with taking care of our families. All of those things are going to be vitally important moving forward here as Tyndall Air Force Base continues to grow. The rebuild continues to work through and get finalized again in the next couple of years, and then we really get back up on step with full operational capability out there. The key to that is going to be this relationship and maintaining and keeping it solid.
And that's the big thing, sir, is we need to keep this communication open. There's 2 parts to communication. Everybody has one part down pat, and that's talking.
This part, that's hard.
Well, what about the other part? That's listening, and that's what's good. Tyndall, Team Tyndall, the community, we all talk about it, and we solve things together because we're strong together. Colonel Kabel, thank you so much for coming in today. I appreciate it. Good luck out there, and we'll keep in touch with you. And unfortunately, that's going to do it for another edition of our military community. Tyndall Air Force Base is on the rise once again. I can't wait to hear all that noise in the air. That's the sign and sounds of freedom, and it's going to happen. And by the way, you'll get a chance to see some of that at the Gulf Coast Salute coming up next month, so we'll be preparing for that. In the meantime, if you have any questions about Tyndall Air Force Base, give them a call out there. They're more than willing to talk to you, and I'm sure if you talk real nice to them and bring Jennifer a cup of coffee, she may even let you have a brief tour of the base and everything. In the meantime, we're so happy and so proud to call Tyndall Air Force Base one of our big community members once again, a part of our local community. That'll do it for this edition of our military community. We hope everyone has a great day, and join us again for another edition next week. In the meantime, I'm Jerry Tabatt for our military community. Have a great day, everyone.